Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of From the Heart. I'm your host, Chloe Trca, and this is a podcast where we talk all things health, wellness, business, mindset, you name it, we probably talk about it. It's truly anything that comes from my heart. I like to do these week by week because I always feel like life is teaching me something. The Lord is teaching me something every single week. So I like to relay the message to you in hopes that it can help inspire you, teach you. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm excited to get into this episode. We are doing a Q&A. I asked you guys on Instagram, on my main account, Chloe Trca, follow that if you don't, and From the Heart, which is my podcast's Instagram. And I just think it's good to do a Q&A every now and then. I think probably at least quarterly we do one, maybe more, but it feels like it's been a while. So I want to kind of get into the minds of you guys and answer any questions that I can to help you guys navigate your lives. We are talking all things today about prioritizing life and wellness in relationships, how to get over a breakup, how to put your faith first and open your heart to God, literally all sorts of stuff. And I'm so excited. So I went through and I actually wrote down a lot of notes for this because that's a goal of mine this year. I used to kind of just from the heart spiel. But I think on a Q&A and more structured episodes, I think it's best to have notes to give my best advice to you guys. So I'm just going to hop right in. Again, these will always be anonymous. If you guys are ever curious, when I post these polls or these question boxes on my Instagram, I will never share who it is. It's very personal. Most of these questions can be very personal questions and I would never want to out y'all. So they'll always be anonymous. Okay. The first question was, what is the best way to reach ultimate productivity without hitting burnout? This is a great question because I've definitely been there. I've felt burnt out before. I love to be productive. It's how I thrive. And I definitely have found ways to enhance my productivity and minimize burnout. One of my biggest pieces of advice for reaching productivity is in your routines. I talk about routines a lot. The world talks about routines a lot, but that's for a reason. They are magical. They are like the superpower to success. It is in the small things within your routine. You're not going to succeed by doing one big, well, maybe, but it's rare, by doing one big life altering switch. It's all of the small details you do every single day that add up to a big sum that's going to level you up and push you past where you used to be and push you past maybe people who aren't doing those little things. It's going to set you apart. And I think if you want to be productive, you have to be organized. And the way to organize your day is to have a routine. So I start every morning with a pretty normal morning routine. I'll get into that later in the episode. Someone asked me about my morning routine. But again, it's getting out of bed, having my coffee, doing my journals, my Bible, going on a walk, and then making my to-do list and getting a workout in. So, making sure you hit your non-negotiables right away in the morning, I think is amazing because one, getting those things done clears headspace in your mind because I have non-negotiables every single day. And if I don't get those done, they're in the back of my mind. I still have to do it today. So that's why I think I love morning workouts because then it's done. And it's out of my head. I'm living rent free from that thought. And I can focus on what other tasks I need to get done because at least in my career, my job, it's different every single day. And I know a lot of people in any industry have different days every single day, different tasks, and it can be a lot to prioritize and to organize and to stay productive with. So get the hard things done first, get the non-negotiables done, whether that's working out, whether that's reading your Bible, I don't know what it could be. It's going to be different for every single person, but get up early, start your day with the non-negotiables, get that done. And then just have a routine, have a flow for your day. Don't just kind of fly by the seat of your pants because you're not going to get anything done. I always say, if I have 100 things on my to-do list, I'll get all 100 done somehow because I'll be forced to time block it in and make a plan of action to get it done. But if I only have 10 things to do that day, I'm going to do the same thing, but give myself much more time. So I'll take up the entire day to do 10 things. So I like being busy. I like having a lot on my to-do list. I think it forces me into kind of a higher level of productivity and staying efficient. But then my next piece of advice, other than just having a routine, because that might be kind of a basic answer, is learning to remove the want and the feelings behind small tasks. So I think a lot of the things that set us off from being productive is avoiding small tasks, or it'll be because you avoided a small task the day before that now it's affecting you the next day and it's messing up your productivity. So for instance, not doing your dishes, when I make a meal and I eat it, I instantly will rinse out the bowl and put it in the dishwasher. I don't let stuff pile up in my sink. And then the second I have clean dishes in my dishwasher, I unload them, because I know if I don't, then it's going to cause me to put stuff in the sink because I don't have time to unload it when I maybe have a dirty dish. So literally the second that thing's done, I just kind of prioritize that and get it done, because then it's just a trickle effect. It's kind of funny, but like a dirty dish in the sink, once there's one in there, there's going to be 5. And once there's 5, there's 10. And then it's like a cluster mess, and it stresses me out and it causes me stress. And then the little stresses in life add up, if that makes sense. And then it makes a big stress seem even bigger, because we have so many little things on our plate too. And I think we can only hold a threshold of stress, and then we like explode. So I minimize the little stresses in my life, like putting my laundry away, unloading the dishwasher, keeping my space tidy, drinking my water. Like little itty bitty things might not seem like a big deal putting off, but in the long run, they add up and they take up a lot of headspace. So minimize those, but also minimize and learn to remove the want and the feelings behind a task. Because obviously I don't want to put away my dishes. That's not fun. That's a very boring, monotonous task that I don't enjoy doing, and I live alone. So I'm the only one who does it. It's not like I can split up the tasks. But I just remove the feelings from it. And I'm like, okay, you're doing this. Like, this isn't really an option. Obviously you have to do it. But I think a lot of times we kind of let ourselves get in our own head of being like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's a task. Like you make it a bigger deal than it really is. It takes you maybe 5 minutes to unload your dishwasher, 15 minutes to put your laundry away or run a load of laundry before you leave the house. Like, they're small things. Just remove the feelings, remove the idea of having to like want to do it. Because sometimes you just need to do things. And I don't know, maybe that's a me thing, but at one point in my life, I think I got too soft and I got too comfortable and only doing the things that I wanted to do. And I was neglecting the things that I needed to do. And it was not healthy for me. It made everything just seem harder and more of a chore. So I just don't let my head go there. And I kind of stop my thought before it goes there. And I just like do the action. And then the next piece of advice I have for that is to have a purpose and a why. So ultimately, when you're trying to be productive and you're trying to get things done, you need to have a why. So whether that's something like, my why today to be productive is so I can hang out with my best friend tonight or my boyfriend, that's what I use a lot, if I'm being honest, because Kyler and I are very busy. We're both self-employed. Our schedules are crazy. So when we can schedule in a time to see each other, I hustle so that I can get everything done in my day, so then I can be like fully present when we're together. I enjoy that time. That's like I love being with my boyfriend. Like, that's my favorite thing ever. So that's my why. And when I'm like being lazy and I just want to scroll and take 10 minutes and take a break throughout my day, I'm like, no, because the faster you're done with all your stuff, the sooner you can go see him, or the better of a time you'll have with him, because you have more of peace of mind knowing everything's accomplished. Or if you're trying to be productive on social media, say your job's like my job's social media, and I'm trying to stay productive and organized with it, my why is my community. It's no longer myself. And I think that's where I got misaligned a lot, is I wanted to grow myself, to build my company, my brand, to further my career. And I'm like, this isn't even why you started on social media. And again, that's another question later on in the podcast I'll get into, but it's like, I had to reflect and ask myself, why are you actually posting? And I was like, it's for my community. It's for my followers. That's why I started. And that, to me, I'm taking myself out of it and I'm putting you guys in the purpose seat. And that's a much better driver for me. And it allows me to grind. It allows me to get more creative. It allows me to polish and perfect my content. Like, when my content's looking better, it's because I'm constantly in a state of mind of this is for like them. When my content's slacking, it's because I'm prioritizing me, and I've learned to depict that, and it's something I'm really working on like recently, but it's given me a lot of breakthrough in that era, or in that, I guess, area of my life. So I guess for you guys, if there's something that you're struggling to prioritize, reflect on your why, reflect on the purpose of it, maybe learn to remove yourself from it, or maybe you are something you need to prioritize and you've never done that in your life and you need to learn to put yourself first. That's a great reason as well. And then the last piece of advice I have to reach ultimate productivity without hitting burnout is to reflect on what often distracts you. So for me, example, I notice I'm way less productive when I'm not getting enough sleep. And to look back at that, another step behind would be, I'm not getting enough sleep because I'm going to bed too late. And then I'm like, why am I going to bed too late? And it's like, I'm scrolling my phone. I'm not doing enough. Like it's kind of a cycle. It's a cycle because when I'm up too late, it's typically because I have too many things in the day to get done. And so I stay up too late doing them, or I stay up too late talking to my boyfriend. So it's like, okay, let's break the cycle. Let's realize why this is happening. But it's like when I stay up too late, then I sleep in too late and I can't get a head start on my day. That's a personal thing. I'm way more productive at the beginning of my day than the end. So I can get 10 times the amount done in 2 hours at the beginning of my day than at night. Like I'm tired, I check out. There's a million other little like life things to do at night, like cleaning my apartment. I usually do all that stuff at night, making myself dinner, running an errand. Like I put that all off like after 5 o'clock. So for me, that's what sets me off. So I guess for you, sit down, ask yourself, why am I not being productive? Is it because I'm tired? Is it because I'm not in a good environment? Sometimes when I'm in my apartment too much, I'm not productive. So I put myself in a coffee shop and I grind. And I was going to do that today, actually, because today's like a Monday. It's a big like editing work day for me. I don't typically podcast on Mondays, but I had extra time because I stayed home and worked from home because this morning it was like gloomy in Arizona, which is rare, very rare, but I had all my windows open. It was like 65 and it was a freaking vibe, but that locked me in. So like I know my cues and I know my triggers of what's going to set me off of my productivity and what's going to like turn me on to being productive. Something that sets me off is having a podcast going when I'm trying to work. I'm guilty of that sometimes, but like I can't focus on two things at once. So I have to like learn to hit pause or not turn my TV on because sometimes I like to have something going on in the background. But if I really need to lock in, learn to turn it off or learn to pause it for a different time. Learn to put yourself in a different environment. I could go on and on about this topic. Clearly, I have a lot to say. But again, if you're struggling with burnout and productivity, it's because you probably need a better routine. You need to learn to remove the want and the feelings from whatever you're trying to accomplish and get done. Make sure you have a solid purpose or why for the thing you need to accomplish and reflect on what distracts you. Because I think we hit burnout when we don't have a good purpose, we don't have a good drive, we're feeling overwhelmed. And I think you can avoid that by being organized and having a plan and having a routine and having a why. So I hope that helped. That was a loaded answer. So anyway, moving on to number 2. The next question was how to navigate a job, testing your faith and wanting to leave but financially unable. This question is a great question. I actually personally have experienced this, and one of my very good friends literally this past weekend went through this and left a company that she works with, and I was so proud of her because that is the boldest thing to do. It's so scary to walk blindly in faith. If you're a Christian, you're going to resonate with this. If you're not faithful and you're in this position though, and you just feel called to leave, but you're scared to because of financial reasons, my biggest piece of advice is, and this is a Christian take because I am Christian, but you can, apply this into whatever terms you personally relate to, but the Lord will never put a calling on your heart and on your life that isn't meant for you. So you need to be obedient. The biggest thing as a Christian is to be obedient to the calls from the Lord and the things that he puts on your heart. And I pray about this all the time. I surrender my career. I surrender my relationships. I surrender everything that is so intimate and close to me that I'm scared to lose, because I know if the Lord is calling me away from it, there is something even better than what I have now. And a lot of times we want to put ourselves and our own wants and desires, our own fleshly wants, desires above the Lord's path for us. And we can't, as humans, often see the difference in the moment. It's almost like a feeling. It's something you feel. You'll have these thoughts in your head. Maybe you'll have dreams. Maybe the Lord will plant people in your life to kind of speak life into you or give you signs. That's how he talks to me a lot, is through other people. And I'm like, whoa, like, why did you just do that? I needed that. But you need to learn to be obedient and trust, because he will ultimately put that on your heart for a reason. And if you are a firm believer in the Lord or whatever it is, you have to trust in that and understand if you feel called to leave, you need to do it, because you have to understand he'll always provide. He will always provide, and he will provide and then replace it with something even better. I always say rejection is God's redirection. So if you're feeling rejected by someone, if you're feeling rejected by a job, like my friend, she didn't feel prioritized and she didn't feel appreciated, the company she was working with. And she's like, I'm pouring my heart and giving so much effort and it's not being reciprocated and it doesn't align with me. And she's like, I can't not put in 100% effort because that's not me. So at this point, it kind of forced her to leave. And there was a lot of other things. She didn't align with it. My own experience as well was that this company was no longer appreciating everything I was doing for them, and they wanted more and they wanted more, and they weren't compensating me for that. And it wasn't fair, and I didn't feel valued and understood. That's literally why I love Be Amazing, the supplement company I work with, because they are the opposite of that. They appreciate me, they understand me, they respect me, they're open. Like, it's always they always want to know how they can help me. And I think the Lord placed Be Amazing in my life to like raise my standard for what I expect out of like partnerships. And these aren't just like one-off brand deals I'm talking about. These are companies that we're like sponsored by, we're athletes for. So it's a big deal because it's a big projection of our own morals, values. Like, whoever people are sponsored by is a reflection of who they are, like that company stands for. There's certain brands I will never work with because they misalign with my own values and beliefs. And so you have to be firm in that. And that's just, you have to do that out of the like, respect for yourself too. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent about this, but I want to get to my next point because there's a few points in this. But the first thing you can do is just to pray for understanding and pray for clarity, and pray and pray and pray and pray and pray when you feel like you've already prayed. If you think you've prayed enough, you haven't. So continue to pray on it and have other people pray for you. I have a group chat with some girlfriends, and that's literally how I know this girl was struggling with this, is she was asking for prayer. She's like, guys, I don't know what to do. I rely on this company financially. It's a huge component of her like income. I've been there too. I gave up like a fourth of my income leaving 2 companies a couple years ago, and I replaced it with something else, and it worked out for the better. So pray for understanding. Pray that the Lord will help, open a new door, open a new opportunity. Don't just like sit there and let your thoughts consume you and stress you out. Pray. Pray, 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 and He will deliver. He always does in the perfect timing. So be patient with it. If it doesn't come right away, continue to pray, because sometimes through prayer, we have new revelations and new understandings, and maybe you're meant to stay. Maybe you're meant to stay and like be the light within that company and be the shift that they need to make, and make an impact on them, So it doesn't always mean to leave, but continue to pray because you'll get that like clear knowing. My next thing is get creative. Get creative with it. So this sounds kind of silly, but it's like, get creative with the way you can financially make an income. Don't become only reliant on that one thing, because then it has some form of control over you. And so it's like kind of gain your power back and start to be like generate multiple streams of income. Pick up a side hustle, pick up a part-time job. It might suck for the moment, but I promise you, it's like a small, short-term maybe point of difficulty or stress or misery or busyness for a lifetime of relief, and you're not going to be in misery. Look at it in the grand scheme of things. If you have to hustle for 6 months or a year or a month even, and you have to work doubles and you have to work, a part-time job after a 9 to 5 or whatever it is, suffer through that short term to alleviate it long term. And another thing I was going to say too is like, begin to take the steps to allow you to step away. I'm going to read that again. Begin to take the steps to allow you to step away. This will alleviate a lot of that financial stress too. So it's like, begin to budget and begin to save. Begin to build up that savings account. So if you do go jobless for a month, 2 months, 3 months, you're going to be okay. But maybe you need to prepare for that now so you can leave the company in 2 or 3 months. Another thing would be, like I said, to start a side hustle, start another like revenue generator. If you're crafty, start selling. Like my best friend Taylor sells little tie blankets, not because she wants to leave a job, but just for like to pass time, and it's another stream of income. If there's something you're good at, like figure out how you can serve people and help people and make money on it, or start going through your clothes and selling your clothes, or start babysitting, or start Uber Eatsing or Door Dashing or whatever it is. Pick up little jobs here and there, and then also start sending out resumes, start interviewing at other companies, start kind of putting your foot, out there, and one foot in front of the other. I always say it takes the first step. So start looking over your resume and be like, okay, am I qualified? What am I qualified in? What am I interested in? Where do I feel called to go? And start interviewing and just see what companies have to offer. And, sometimes it's like you go out there and you realize, oh, maybe like, I don't want you to like settle, but sometimes we can get so wrapped up into what we're doing. We think there's so much better out there, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So when you go out and interview, maybe the Lord will kind of, place a revelation in front of you and be like, okay, wow, my company actually, I really like the company. I really like the job. I really like this, but there's a few things I don't like. Learn how you can make a shift in that because maybe these other companies like are awful, and the other jobs out there aren't what you thought they would be. So I don't know. It's going to go a million different ways for everyone, but I would really recommend getting out there and, taking one step in front of the other and not just staying stagnant in that thought. Like, take action on the situation. And like I said, a small amount of time of uncomfortableness, it's going to provide you more relief in the long run. So it's like suffer, grind through that short-term period for a lifetime of just peace. Anyway, I hope that made sense. The next question is how to have an open mind and an open heart to God. A lot of these questions are about faith, but I'm going to answer them because it's what you guys want to hear. And I'm here to provide the need that you guys have. And if you want to hear my advice on faith, I'm going to give it to you. Absolutely. Again, most of my faith-based content is in my other podcast, Heavenly Chats. Those go up every single Friday at 5 a.m. on the same platforms as this. We have our own YouTube channel. You can watch it if you watch this podcast. But that's all about my faith, but it's such a huge part of my life. And I feel like it's a big part of my content and what I feel called to share recently. So we're going to do it. Anyway, like I said, the next question was how to have an open heart and an open mind to God. The thing is, for me personally, I've always had, I guess, an open heart and an open mind, but I feel like it just gradually kind of happens. And if it's not, it was because I wasn't putting myself in a position to allow it to happen. I wasn't in the Word enough. I wasn't attending church enough. I wasn't around Christian people enough. I wasn't in the environments to kind of stir that up enough. I was around the same old situations. And it's like nothing changes if nothing changes. I say that all the time, but don't expect to have more of an open mind and an open heart doing the things you've always done. So start listening to worship music, change something, because the Lord will work through it. So whatever you kind of feel called to change, like I said, if it's going to a Bible study, if it's going to church every Sunday, if it's going to young adults night once a week, if it's reaching out to a friend at your church to spend more time with and build a better connection. I think my friends have had a huge impact on my faith because they can speak life into you. They can pray over you. They can pray for you. You can go to them for advice. Seek out a counselor through the church. My church offers a ton of that. Super, super helpful, but make a change. And then the next thing would be to, I guess, understand you need God. It's hard to explain. Once you're here to the point of having God in your heart, you realize you need God. But prior, I've been in the same position as you are, whoever asked this. And it was I didn't think I needed God. I thought I was fine. My life's fine. It's really not that bad. I get through things. Yeah, life's hard sometimes, but it always works itself out, whatever. But once you get to know God, you realize how dependent and how reliant you have to be on him for quite literally everything. And honestly, that's a relieving feeling. It's so relieving knowing any struggle I go through, any misery, any pain, any stress, God wants you to put it on him. And then it's so freeing and it makes you feel so alive. Obviously there's hard days. It's not sunshines and rainbows all the time as a Christian, but the peace that you feel and the comfort that you feel knowing you have him to go to is unreal. You guys, the power of prayer, it's one of those things, until you do it, you don't understand the magnitude of it. But since the new year, I'm doing 75 hard, and one of my challenges I added was to journal every single day. And when I journal, I pray, and it's a prayer. And I either journal about my life, sometimes it's all prayer, but I always make sure to finish in a prayer. And I've been praying about the same thing for the past week. And I have literally experienced it and seen it come to fruition every single day. And it is insane because, you guys, this is something that I've struggled with. It's been hard for me, for a very long time. And it was kind of something I was in denial about and I kind of avoided because it would kind of flare up every now and then. And it goes away. It doesn't cause an issue, but then it'll cause an issue. And then I try to fix it and then it goes away. And I just never actually got to the root of it. And I just kind of put a Band-Aid over it. And so I was I've never actually prayed over this, and I've never prayed for God to help me get through it. And, he literally is. And prayer is so powerful. So if you are wanting to open your heart and your mind to God, pray for literally that. And if you don't even know how to pray, just be Lord, please open my heart and open my mind to you. That is all you have to say. It is the action of going to him with surrender and hands open and being I need you, I need your help. If you're wanting to open your heart and your mind to him, you already have it open. So lean in, press in. I hope this is making sense. Sometimes your relationship with the Lord is kind of a hard thing to explain sometimes, because it doesn't always make complete sense until you experience it yourself and you like fully feel it. Like you fully feel the Holy Spirit in your body. It's like a warm, tingly feeling and sensation. I wouldn't have understood and been like, what are you talking about? Until I actually experienced it, or until I actually wrote a prayer in my journal and then saw 6 months later or 6 days later, whatever it may be, boom, that prayer is literally answered, and you experience it and you feel it. Like, it's insane. It's literally insane, because he has the power to break chains and break habits and break generational curses, things that you can literally never heal. You think you can't heal from, he can heal you from it. And it is like mind blowing. You feel like so strong and so empowered, because like, what can't he help you through? Nothing. So like, what is going to stop you? Nothing. Anyway, I'm like over here hyping up the Lord. I'm like getting all hype right now. But anyway, okay. So those were all of my kind of advice for that, is when it kind of just happens, but you have to let it happen and you have to surrender and want it to happen. Two, like I said, get involved, get in the doors of the church, phone up a friend from church, immerse yourself in it. Like, get immersed in the word, in worship music, in church, and then understand you need God. That will do a lot. And then the next question is about castor oil. It's like that is like the buzzword right now on TikTok, on Instagram. Every health and wellness influencer is putting a little castor oil pack on their stomach. I myself am as well. And there's contradicting opinions, I guess, on it. So I did some research, because again, it's important to do research before you start doing anything. But I wanted to explain kind of what castor oil is. So why people say it helps with bloating and it helps with like the morning skinny or whatever. It's because, so first I want to kind of explain what castor oil is used from. I searched this up, actually found legitimate sources like .gov, what's the other one, org, stuff like that. And I was researching and finding many like similarities. So I'm like, okay, this is probably legit if I'm finding it on multiple different sources and they're saying the same thing. It says castor oil has traditionally been used as a remedy for treating various skin conditions, infections, relieving constipation, and increasing hair health. But castor oil also can be used to support the immune system, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, oh my goodness, I cannot speak. Antimicrobial, oh my gosh. Antimicrobial agent and a lymphatic stimulant. So this is kind of why it can help with digestion. It can help with like the quote unquote morning skinny, because castor oil is a natural laxative. So it will make you regular. If you've used castor oil and you wake up and you gotta go, that's legit a thing, because it contains an acid. I don't even know how to pronounce that. RICINOLEIC. However you pronounce that, I'm not even going to attempt. I'm not a great reader, if I'm being honest. But it attaches to your intestines and causes muscle contractions, which helps you poop. They literally use castor oil to induce labor for people, because it gets those muscles going. Activates them and gets them to contract. So that's why if you're constipated, it helps to get the muscles going, open up the muscles that make you poop, and then you go. So if you're bloated, it's probably because you're constipated, because you're not going regularly. That's a very common thing for women, probably men too, but I feel like especially women, we have like constipation issues. It's going to make you regular, and that's, like I said, can help with bloating, digestion. It also can be an effective antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, which can help fight like free radicals and slow the aging process. So that's why some people also put it on their skin for like anti-aging, wrinkle reasons. Some people put it on their hair. I didn't really do much research on that, because I don't put it on my hair. Some people put it on their eyelashes and their eyebrows. What I can say from using it is I don't do it every single day, because you can overuse it and then it can lead to like, okay, sorry, TMI, but like diarrhea. And that hasn't happened to me personally, but I don't want it to happen to me. So I'll do like a day or two with it, and then I'll take a day off, and then I'll do 2 a day with it, and then I'll take 2 days off. So I don't do it every single day consistently, because I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to over activate those muscles and feel like I'm going to poop my pants. But I think it does help for sure, because I've experienced it myself. But you can do too much as well. So only do like a tablespoon or so. I put it like on my belly button with my hand, and then I also just do like a tablespoon, like on the castor oil pad. Some people use the wraps. I just use a sticky pad, because the sticky adhesive, it kind of low-key hurts to rip off, and it rips my spray tan off, which is kind of annoying, or my like self tanner. But the wraps, they're not like stuck to you, so the oil can kind of like seep through and get on your clothes and get on your sheets. And I don't want that to happen, so I just use the patches and just rip them off and throw them away like a Band-Aid, because it doesn't seep through that. I've had no staining of any sort, so that's why I use those instead of the pad. That's all I have about castor oil. But I feel like I have been getting loads of questions on that. So moving on to the next question, dating as a Christian. I'm a Christian. My boyfriend's a Christian. We're dating, clearly. So I have a lot of experience with this. But also, I've dated non-Christians, and I've dated before I was like fully saved. And the way my relationship differs is astronomical. I would never not date a Christian man ever again. I don't know how to explain it. There's a lot of good guys. But if they don't know the Lord, it's just not going to work for me personally. Like, I see why I had so many issues in the past. But when you don't have the Lord as like your foundation and your building block, you just don't have a firm foundation, and you need to have a solid, firm foundation before building a relationship. It just makes sense. And again, as a Christian, it's such a big part of your life. If you don't share that with the other person, your morals and your values are going to be completely different, and they're just not going to understand. And it's just going to be very misaligned. And I don't want to go through that. And that's just like a no for me. So I will always date a Christian man. And my biggest piece of advice in these relationships right off the bat, if this is like a fresh new relationship, if you're dating, talk, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but if you can get uncomfortable right away with somebody, hats off to you guys. I think that's a great sign. That was how me and my boyfriend, before we were even like pursuing each other in like a romantic way, we were friends, but we were able to have very open, vulnerable conversations. And I think that built such a solid form of like trust within each other and a better understanding of each other. And it started to like build that foundation for the both of us before we even knew what we were building, but talk about boundaries and talk about values. So as a Christian, you need to talk about what your boundaries are within dating. There's like a standard if you abide by the Bible. Some people don't, but it's like me and my boyfriend, we both were like, okay, are you going to live with like a significant other before they're married? We both were like, no. And the hardest thing to do is like stick to your values. If you really like this boy, but they're like, yeah, like I want to live with my girlfriend before I marry her to make sure we can like coexist and live together. But like you were like not going to live with a man before you're married. Don't bend your rules. Be so firm in your values, okay? And your boundaries, but have that conversation. Like make sure you know what their, view is on this stuff, and like sex before marriage, and what church they go to, and get to know those details, get to know what they want in a person, get to know what their view of like a godly woman is, get to know what their view and understanding of like a godly relationship is, what their 5-year plan is, where they see themselves, if they want kids, if they want to homeschool kids, if they want to put their kids in public school, private school. Like these little questions are really important off the bat, because don't waste your time if they misalign, because the Lord will not ultimately, like, you're not going to be your soulmate, the person that God has intended for you isn't going to make you, branch outside of like your core values. Again, don't be so one-sided, and don't not compromise on certain things, because I think you have to compromise on a few, but like not the big, really important morals that you have. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I think you know what I'm talking about. Like if they're like the big, like sex before marriage, living with each other before marriage, like big things, like don't compromise on that. But if it's little things, you have to learn to compromise. Like it can't be your way or the highway all the time in a relationship. But just talk about those things before you even get into it. You'll just save yourself a lot of stress and heartache, because you'll catch feelings, and then if it's so misaligned, it's not going to work out, and then you're just going to be heartbroken. So just don't even get started if it's not going to work. My next piece of advice is this is really important, and this is something I've learned, is to have like your own time with the Lord, like just you and the Lord, but then also have time for like you, your significant other, and the Lord together. So like read your Bibles together, but also make sure you're reading the word on your own. Go to church together, but like be immersed in the service, just you and the Lord and the word. Don't like have them as a distraction during worship. So fun to worship with them, but if you need that intimate time, make sure you're still having that time to yourself as well. I think a lot of times you feel like they have to be a part of everything, but your relationship with the Lord is so precious and so intimate that like they're not meant to be a part of all of that. If that makes sense. So just make sure you're having like a balance. And then I think it's really cool to like get involved together at the church. That's something I want to do more with Kyler, is to like start serving with him. And then my other biggest piece of advice is to pray for them. If you know them, if you don't even know them yet, like if you're so single and there's no man on your radar, pray for your future boyfriend, pray for your future husband. And that's what I did a year ago. And I prayed, I said, Lord, I pray that he is a man of. I pray that he makes me feel this way. I pray that he does this. I pray that he is this. The Lord answered every single one of those prayers to a T. I posted on TikTok like a week ago, and it was a reflection because Kyler, my boyfriend now, is to a T that prayer. So pray for them. Pray for them. It will make you open your eyes to what is important to you, and the Lord will hear it, see it, and deliver when it's right timing. So do that. And again, if you're in a relationship, I still pray for Kyler all the time. He prays for us. I pray for our relationship. I surrender our relationship to them, to the Lord, and just remain obedient and just be in a constant state of prayer about it. And when you're struggling with things, pray. That's my new like life motto, is to pray as a reaction. My reaction to everything is prayer, whether it's good or bad. If it's really great news, I praise and I'm like, Lord, thank you. And if it's really bad and I want to cry, I want to scream, I want to be upset, I pray. I'm like, Lord, help me get through this. Like, Lord, relieve me from this like pain, relieve me from this stress, relieve me from this anxiety, this hurt, whatever it is. Pray about it rather than reacting. Like, your reaction should be to go to prayer, and that will change your life. Okay? That's all I have to say about that, because I can get carried away talking about this. This is literally why I started a whole nother podcast on this topic. Okay. Next one is how I got into influencing. So this is kind of like what I was saying earlier. I actually started posting on social media in high school, and it wasn't because I wanted to be an influencer. There was like YouTubers, but this was before TikTok even existed. This was like 2017, 2018. And I posted because there was a need that I needed to fill. Okay. And I'll explain that. But when you start on social media, make sure you have a purpose, a why, and do it for others to like fill a need, fill a gap, whether that's entertainment and comedy, whether that's knowledge in a certain industry, whether that's, inspiration through something. Like, mine is to like help lead people to live like their healthiest, happiest, most faithful life. And how do I do that? I give them inspiration on what they should be eating. I give them inspiration on workouts. I give them, motivation and mindset inspiration. I share my tips on here. But you have to be filling a need for the community. Don't do it for yourself. Don't make it a self-seeking thing. Don't make it an egotistical thing. It's so easy to do that, and I've fallen victim to it, and it will not grow. You will not grow doing that. You have to do it to help others. And it's funny because when I started growing, before I grew, like at the beginning of my like huge like growth spurt on social media, that was my mindset, was how do I help people? How do I serve people? How can I help? Like, what can I provide them that they don't already have and know? And then I kind of got away from that because ego took its thing, and I didn't even realize it was happening until after the fact. And I look back and I'm like, okay, that's where we were misaligned. But make sure you're doing it for others and not yourself. But like I said, I got into it because I was in high school and I fell in love with health and fitness like sophomore year of high school. I had a really, really good coach within my track. Like, I did a private training group for track, and he really poured into us like the importance of recovery and nutrition and training and how to properly train for something. And I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with all the knowledge. I was like a sponge, absorbing every single thing he said. And simultaneously, I was in a health class, and I had this health class right before lunch, and there was a whole unit on nutrition. And I'm like, I am so into this. I'm so passionate about this. And from that like semester on, I completely changed the way I ate. I completely changed the way I trained. I regularly worked out, not just when I was in like going to practice. I would work out like on the side. And I started making all these changes in my life, and everyone in my school, my community, the people I was around every single day was seeing significant changes in me, the way I looked, the way I felt, the way I was performing in my sports. And they were asking questions. They were like, what are you eating? What's your ab workout? And there were little funny things like that. What's your protein bar recipe? But I was sending this same thing out like a million times to a bunch of people. And so I was like, And I followed up a couple like health and wellness, influencers on social media, like Instagrammers. And I was like, it'd be kind of fun to like share. So I made like a private account. It wasn't myself, but I'd post recipes. I'd post stuff like that on there. And then once I graduated, I'd post workouts for people. And it was to help them because I knew all of these girls in my life needed guidance within the gym. They'd walk into the gym, they didn't know what to do. A lot of these girls weren't even athletes. So it's like fitness was a whole new thing to them and they didn't know what to do. So I started doing that. I started posting what I ate because people wanted inspiration for that. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about like what I eat in a day is because it can be really hard to like think of fun new meals to eat. And so I like to show what I do. And it just, built from there. But it ultimately came down to me filling a need for my community. And so find a way you can serve others and what you're knowledgeable at, what you're talented at, whatever the Lord gifted you with, utilize that to help others. And in turn, it will, serve you back in however way the Lord has intended for you. But just like I said, keep the ego away from it. Don't do it to get famous. Don't do it for money. Don't do it for clout. Do it to serve and help others. And that's my biggest piece of advice. The next question is navigating breakups. Okay, so this is a good one. Most of this, I'm going to credit Mel Robbins. I just listened to the Skinny Confidential podcast, and it was actually quite good timing. I was going to say ironic, but nothing's ironic. It's all purposeful by the Lord. But I was listening to her podcast and she was literally talking about a breakup. And I'm like, this is so good. And then one of the questions was about navigating a breakup. And I'm like, all right, I have a bunch of new advice and this is really, really good. So again, most of this is from her and it's really good advice. So I want to relay it to you guys. But the first thing that she was saying was cleanse them for 30 days, no contact. And I can attest to this because my only real ex, I've had a couple situationships that honestly were harder than my real breakup, but you know why they were harder? Because they were situationships and we didn't cut it clean and cut it off. Me and my ex, I dated him for 6 years. You guys, 14 to 20 years old, 6 years of my life. And we went no contact after the breakup and it was the healthiest, cleanest cut relationship break ever. We never went back to each other. It was obviously it hurt. You have to go through the grieving process. Breakups are grief. It feels like you're physically losing someone because you are, but you have to go 30 days, no contact. Don't pull up their Instagram. Don't go stalking. Don't go listening to voice memos, voicemails. Delete the photos. Remove them from your life. Cleanse them from your life. It's going to be so hard. But Mel Robbins literally said this in her podcast. I'm like, this is so good. When you don't do that and you're looking back and hearing their voice and looking at things, you are keeping them alive in your nervous system. And when you do that, you are not going to be open to allowing something new into your life if you're keeping them alive. You kind of have to kill that relationship to allow another one to grow. And obviously you need to have time to heal. I'm not saying get into another relationship right away, but I'm saying if you don't cleanse from that, you're never going to be open to a new relationship. And I, on the other side of this, have been in a little bit of a situationship in my life back in the day, in between the relationship I am now and that relationship. And for ever, you guys, 2 years. It was back and forth, back and forth. It was freaking tennis. I am not kidding. It's the most exhausting thing I've ever experienced. But it was because we never clean cut and gave ourselves 30 days of just not talking to each other and just cutting each other out of our lives. So we never were able to move on and they were still alive in our nervous system. So when they came up, emotions are still there, feelings are still there, and you can never fully move on until I finally did. You guys, I finally did it after 2 years. And now I'm healed. I'm over it. I'm removed. And I'm in a very healthy, happy relationship. So I'm this is real because I experienced both ends of it. And it's funny because I did the right thing first and then I didn't do the right thing and I didn't clean cut it, but I didn't realize I was supposed to be doing that. So if you got a situationship and they're putting you through this treacherous cycle, cut it off for 30 days. Literally, that relationship has to die to you. That sounds intense, but it's true because then you're killing it out of your nervous system and you're able to move on and heal from it. Another thing that she recommended was to change your routine and change your environment. You have to learn to remove the reminders of them. So I lived with my ex of 6 years, and when he moved out, half the stuff left, which was good because it forced me to rearrange and buy new stuff and refresh the place and make it my own. And that really helped. But it's funny because I think I kind of knew this before knowing it, because ultimately in the relationship, it was harder for him than me. I initiated the breakup and he wanted to stay in the apartment. And I knew in my core, I was this is not going to be healthy for you to be in this place. I was pretty okay after the relationship. I think I had like coped with it before it even happened because I was in denial for a while about it coming to an end because I didn't want it to. So I think I like healed from it before it was even over. But anyway, I knew that I could be in that environment and in that apartment and be okay. I knew he probably wouldn't. I knew it would be a constant reminder of us. I knew it would probably put him into like a negative head mindset. And so ultimately that's why I stayed in the apartment. He did not. But that's so true. Like she said, you have to change your environment, rearrange your room, rearrange whatever it is. Even if like you're not even living with him and he's over at your place all the time, still probably rearrange. Just give yourself a fresh new perspective on everything. So it's not like everything makes you think of them. Because they will, honestly, right away. Like you'll be driving by a freaking Chick-fil-A and be like, oh, we used to get Chick-fil-A together. Oh, we used to go to that gym together. Oh, we used to do runs together. Like everything will remind you of it. So then you have to learn to, replace that with like new memories, and just shift it. Like start running a different route. Start going to don't go to freaking Chick-fil-A for a little bit, like change the environment, change the routine. And then, this is really good piece of advice that she gave. And I have to tell you guys, she said, don't dedicate anything to them in a revenge because then you're essentially doing it for them. So like a revenge body, a revenge diet. Don't do that because you're literally doing it in honor of them. They are still a part of that. They are still a part of you and your life and in your nervous system, and you're not moving on when you're doing it for them. Do it for yourself. Do it for your future boyfriend. Don't do it for them. Okay? All right? Okay. I really liked that, and that's pretty simply put. But like I said, breakups, it's like a grieving process. You're literally grieving and mourning a relationship. It's going to be hard. You're going to be sad. You're going to cry. Maybe you won't, but most likely you probably will be. But it's not that you shouldn't be. Like, that's normal. You're going through the process of grief. Allow yourself to go through the stages, but make sure you're like continuing on through the stages. Don't get stuck in one. And I like how she said this in the podcast. She was saying urges don't mean that you should. So if you have an urge to like reach out, don't. The only reason you have an urge is because it's a pattern in your body to do so. You're like on autopilot to give them, if you normally call them or normally text them throughout the day, you're going to get an urge to do that because your mind is literally trained the past however long you've been dating them and been with them to do that habit. So you have to learn to not fall victim to the urges. So in my advice in that moment, I would pray. I'd be like, Lord, please relieve me of this urge. Please put something new on my heart. Get on your hands and knees, literally surrender, pray, like, don't let me text him. It's hard. It's going to be freaking hard, but don't do it. And then when you're going through it, remind yourself that the love of your life is in your future. It is there. You will find love. Lord will place somebody in your life, whether you think it or not, but you have to be open to it, and you have to do the things to get there, and you have to want a relationship. But trust that like there is good to come. The Lord will come through and provide. Trust in his plan. That is my biggest piece of advice going through a breakup, is to trust in the process of it. And trust that the Lord knows exactly who like your future husband or wife will be. And understand the reason like you guys, the relationship came to an end is you're probably like have served each other your maximum potential. The Lord knew that and was like, okay, they're ready to move on. Like that wasn't their person. The relationship might have served its purpose. Cause like, again, my breakup, however long ago, that long-term breakup, it wasn't an ugly, bad breakup, but it was a very healthy breakup, but it was just ultimately came down to, we had served each other to our fullest extent and it just wasn't it. And I don't ever regret anything in that relationship. I think it served me and him both in the ways it needed to. But the Lord put it on my heart and was like, this is not your person. Like you will grow so much more with someone else and so will he. But you guys got yourself like this far. And that's kind of all the Lord had to write for that relationship. And I guess just accept it. But no, like it's part of the Lord's plan. It's what was meant to happen. And then another piece of advice, my last piece of advice on breakups is pray. That's my new life motto, is to pray as a reaction. My reaction to everything is prayer, whether it's good or bad. If it's really great news, I praise and I'm like, Lord, thank you. And if it's really bad and I want to cry, I want to scream, I want to be upset, I pray. I'm like, Lord, help me get through this. Like, Lord, relieve me from this pain, relieve me from this stress, relieve me from this anxiety, this hurt, whatever it is. Pray about it rather than reacting. Like your reaction should be to go to prayer, and that will change your life. Okay? If that person wasn't the person for you and you had a list of reasons, some people have a freaking laundry list of they didn't do this, they didn't have this, I wanted this. Whatever you want in a person, make sure you are that as well. Don't have all these expectations for a man or for a girl, a woman come into your life and like you aren't equally yoked. I'm not saying you need to be the same person, have all the same attributes, but if you expect someone to be a good communicator, make sure you are as well. If you expect someone to be a man of God, make sure you're a woman of God. You know, make sure you're equally yoked and don't just have all these expectations, but then not be able to deliver on your end. That's like a harsh piece of advice, but I had to understand that myself, and it was a hard lesson to learn, but it's very motivating. When it's like, okay, I want all these things in a man, I better level up, because you're going to meet, like where you're at is where you'll meet someone. So if you have like a high standard, you got to be up there too. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, moving on to the next question. How to deal with doubt in your faith. Doubt in faith and doubt in God is definitely a struggle all Christians experience at some point. You know, it pops up a lot in the world of Christianity. And the first thing I do when I feel any sense, any feeling of doubt, and it happens to me, it's happened to me, is I pray. I've talked about praying a lot on this episode, but it's just the power of prayer is literally insane. Think of the power, you guys, of your words when you speak them out loud, like self-affirmations, the power of a word. Imagine how powerful prayer is then. Just take that into consideration. But anytime I'm having doubt, anytime I'm like questioning the Lord or his plan, I pray about it and I open my Bible and I read, because I swear every single time I do that, every single time I open my Bible, in that moment, something jumps out at me and it's pretty much exactly what I needed to hear and what I needed to see, and it's very confirming. So get in the word, listen to your worship music, immerse yourself in it, lean harder. When you're doubting, lean in more. My pastor always says your breaking point is often when you're the closest to breakthrough. And I swear the enemy's tactic is to get us to doubt before we are about to emerge into a breakthrough, into something huge. I literally just experienced this a couple weeks right before my baptism. You guys, I was in this weird funk where I was also in my luteal phase, but I was just grouchy. I was negative and I knew it. Like I knew it was happening. I felt it. I didn't want to be like it. I'm like, why? I'm like, I really didn't have as much desire to like be a soft, feminine, godly woman. I was like, no, I'm just like annoyed. Like it was weird. It was so weird. And instead of like accepting that and being like, okay, whatever, like I leaned in harder and I was like, I need to listen to more worship. I need to be in my Bible more. I need to be softer, like actively do it when I don't want to do it, when it's uncomfortable, like push beyond our fleshly desires and our fleshly wants, because the enemy is working simultaneously. Okay. And he's always in your ear. And when the enemy knows you're getting close to breakthrough or something good for the kingdom, he doesn't want that to happen, obviously. So he's going to be working against you. And it's so easy to fall into the enemy's wants and desires because they're fleshly often, and they're usually like self-seeking, but they're usually comfortable. They're usually like gratifying in the moment. They're pleasing. They'll give you pleasure, whatever. But like I'm saying, you gotta lean in harder, because the enemy comes in at a vulnerable moment too. He knows when to strike. And so when you're vulnerable, you're more susceptible for that doubt and for that attack. So if something happens and it's just thing after thing after thing, you have to pray harder and you have to be even like stronger in your beliefs. Like I said, when I'm most doubtful, it's because I'm on the brink of breakthrough, and it was literally right before my baptism all this happened. And I'm like, crazy, you know, like that stuff happens and it's real. So when you're having like a moment of doubt, ask yourself, like, what is causing me to doubt? Is it out of like a want for myself? Because sometimes when we're doubting something, it's because something's not going our way. And we're like questioning God. And we're like, hey, are you here? Like, why are you doing this? Why is this not happening? Why aren't you answering my prayer? And so in that moment, I ask myself, I'm like, okay, is this something that I want out of my own flesh? Or is this me being like open and obedient to the Lord's plan? Because it's natural to doubt something when it doesn't go your way and when it's not what you want, because it's not what you're praying for. And so it's like, okay, are you real? Are you there? Are you listening? Do you love me? Like, what's going on? But if it's something you want, it might not be what the Lord wants. And that might be why it's not being delivered. So change your perspective and kind of surrender it to the Lord and be obedient and be like open arms to like whatever he has to offer, and be like, I'm not doubting you. Be like, I'm trusting you. I get I want this so bad, but if you have something better for me, please deliver that. Like, please show me that. Please open that door and change my heart posture to be open to that. And he will, but you have to like have that awareness in that moment. And it's hard to do. Another piece of advice when you're doubting in your faith is to seek counsel. Seek counsel with like a pastor at your church, or a Bible study, or a friend, or a parent, someone that you trust within like your church, who knows the Lord, and ask them for help, ask them for advice. But like I said, the enemy strikes at vulnerable moments, okay? And he will make you doubt, and he will make you question, because it's just what he does, unfortunately. So when you're having doubt, lean in harder, because it's probably because you're on the brink of something amazing. So it's kind of a good thing. It sucks in the moment, but after the fact, it's like, oh, okay. Kind of crazy. But anyway, next question. We're getting to the end. I think we're on the last 2 questions. There was 10 questions, and I've really went on a tangent for every single one of these. I wasn't expecting that, but we're ready to go. Somebody wanted to know my breakdown of my morning journaling routine and prayer routine. So if you guys follow along on social media, I just posted recently like my night routine and my morning routine. And again, with 75 Hard, I've added a few challenges, and that is reading a chapter of the Bible every single day, journaling every day, and then part of the challenge is you have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book every single day. I love freaking doing this. This is my favorite thing ever, because I did it, like I said, last year. When I did 75 Hard, because the main reason I'm doing 75 Hard is because I was reflecting on 2024. I was going through my photos, all my memories, recapping the year, and I was like, dang, I was really at my A game January through March. I'm like, wonder why? And then I was like, oh, I was on 75 Hard because I was doing the things I needed to do. I was holding myself accountable. I was disciplined. I was journaling every day. I was reading every day. I was in the Word every single day. My faith was on fire. I was learning so much. I felt so good. And I could see that literally in the photos. I'm like, I look happier. I look good. I felt good. I know I did. I lived those days. And so I'm doing it again because it makes me feel my best. And anyway, what my morning essentially looks like, y'all. I roll out of bed. I get my cup of coffee, and I get all these things done right away because it just sets my mind up right. And also, too, it puts me in a state of gratitude in the morning instantly before worry and stress and anxiety and, just the hustle bustle of the day can be overwhelming sometimes. And when you start your day off in like peace and you kind of mind dump, it is like very refreshing. It is very, very refreshing. I love it. But anyway, the first thing I do is I journal in my Inside Then Out journal. It's the Better Everyday one, specifically from them. And it's like a prompt, and it essentially asks you, it's like a series of questions, and it's blocked off in like sections, but it ultimately makes you start to think about like what you want in life. And it's really interesting. Like the first question, or I've done like 7 of them. So like today's question was like, write down like the name of a song and some of the lyrics that speak to you. And then the one before was like, write the intro to an autobiography on your life. And then another one was like, what is your purpose? Like, what is your why? And it just makes you really reflect, and it makes your mind go like down like really deep, and it's really interesting. And then after that, I do my prayer journal. So then I write down my prayers for the day. I give the Lord praise in my journal, and then I just kind of journal anything I'm like growing in, reflecting on, struggling with. So I usually start with that. I'm like, okay, like yesterday was a great day. Yesterday was a hard day. I'm struggling with this. I feel like I'm getting breakthrough here. And then I pray about it. So I pray in a thankful way and a gratitude. And then I also pray for like help in it. Essentially, I ask for God's help. And that's how I pray in my journal. Again, it's going to be different for everyone. And some days when I'm like just not, I can't like think, I don't have anything to write, which is rarely the case, I'll literally just make like a list of prayers. I'll pray for other people even. If I don't have any prayers for myself, I pray for others. And then after that, I read my Bible. So I read a chapter every day. Right now I'm in John. I'm loving John. I did Luke in December for like the December challenge, because Luke is like the story of Jesus, which was really cool, like leading up to Christmas. And then I just kind of went straight into John after. And then after that, I read 10 pages of a book. Right now I'm reading the book. Let me pull it up. Actually, I just posted a picture of it. It is the best book. I recommend it to everyone. If you take anything from this podcast, please read this book. I put it on my like to know it. It's Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. It is Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. It's a Christian-based book. It is amazing. It is literally like part of the thing I've been praying about recently. It is like an answer prayer, this book is. It's teaching me so much. I'm like 30 pages in. I read extra, y'all. I don't want to put the book down. I have to read 10 pages a day. I read more. It is so good. It just talks about how to get out of your head and get out of your thoughts and all of like the toxic circulating thoughts. If you feel like you have anxiety, you have depression, you have stress, and you're always in your head, everyone can use this book, because I know everyone struggles with this in their own way. But then I do that, and that's my morning routine. It's kind of a lot. It takes me like 30 minutes to an hour because I really pour into it and I take my time with it, but I prioritize that and I wake up early to do so. And then the last question, number 10, is how to prioritize your faith, fitness/wellness, and relationships. So I'm going to list how I prioritize them, like in order, and then I'm going to kind of explain them. And I'm not telling you guys you have to prioritize it in this order, but I feel like it's what makes the most sense personally. I said that my number one priority is always my faith. Always gonna be. I feel like everyone should be, because nothing operates correctly when your faith in relationship with the Lord is not aligned. If you don't have a strong foundation with God, nothing else is gonna go smoothly and fluid. When you are strong and firm and aligned with the Lord, everything else just kind of flows naturally. And so it's like I always put that as number one, because it like flows down into everything else. So that's always top. My faith, I will prioritize it over everything. I will take time off from work to grow my faith. I will wake up early to get my Bible. I play Christian music over any other music. I never miss a Sunday service. I do everything I can to make that number one. And then my next one is always gonna be this could change once I have a family, I don't know, but to this point in my life, it is fitness and wellness, because when I can't show up as my best self, I am not my best self for others. So in a way, I'm doing this because I prioritize my relationship so much, but I'm doing it for them, because literally, example, over Christmas, I had all my family in town and I could tell I wasn't myself because I was so out of my routine. I wasn't training normally, wasn't eating normally. And now that I'm like back in my groove, I'm like, oh, I feel like a different person. And I'm like, okay, it's because I wasn't prioritizing that, and I need to do that, or I don't feel right and I can't show up. I'm more moody, I'm more snappy, I'm just like not as bright and alive. So I make sure I really prioritize that. And when by doing that, I just make sure I'm exercising daily. I'm eating meals. I'm eating whole-based foods that make me feel good. I'm sleeping enough. I'm doing my self-care, whether that's a hair mask or a face mask or my LED red light therapy or whatever it is. And I make sure I do my journals, my Bible studies, and my readings, because that's therapeutic for me. So I make sure I do all that stuff, because then third, my relationships, I prioritize that though. Like when you think about it, it's like, oh, you're putting your friends and family third, but it's like they're third above everything else. Like those are my top three things that I prioritize in my life, is my health and wellness, my faith, and my family and friends. Everything else comes fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, whatever. So that's so important, but it's essentially I'm doing my faith number one and my health and well-being number two, so I can be my best self for number three, my friends and family. And I just know that personally. Like when I'm not in touch with the Lord and my relationship isn't good, everything is not good. When I'm not showing up for myself and I'm not eating right, I'm not sleeping enough, I'm a grouch. I'm in a mood. I'm not as excited. I'm not as alive. I don't want to do as much. I'm just like dull. And I don't want to be like that for my family. So I have to prioritize those things. And with that, you have to make sacrifices. You might have to wake up earlier. You might have to miss out on something. You might have to, go on a run when you really don't want to go on a run in the morning because by yourself. But it's like after that run, you're going to feel so much better and you're going to have a better day. So yeah, that was the episode, y'all. That was a lot of questions, but I hope I answered them all. I feel like I went in depth with all of them, so I'm sorry if I went in too much depth. But I hope this helps. I hope you guys are having the best new year. I'm praying for all of you. I love you guys all so much, and I can't wait to chat next week. Again, follow Chloe Trca on Instagram, follow From the Heart, follow Heavenly Chats, because I always will put the question boxes on those Instagrams for future Q&As. And if you guys could leave a review for the podcast, it helps me out so much. Literally just give it is it out of 4 stars? I think, hopefully. If not, give it a 5-star. But anyway, I love you guys, praying for you, and we'll chat next week. Bye guys.